everybody. Where are you joining us from? Welcome, welcome. How is everybody today? Marysville. Hi, Shanna. Shanna, I just used your lip gloss. And that is now memorialized because this is being recorded. So that's exciting for everybody. Parker, Colorado, El Paso. Hi, Chastity. Janet Spisak from Marysville. Oh, it's so good to see you guys. Some of my regulars are back. This feels so good to see you guys again. All the regulars. Hi, Jason. I just had a conversation about Ontario. I've been there twice in the last 6 months. Denise Schroeder, my friend, I hope you are well. How's Oklahoma City? I bet it's hot, but it's getting hot there. It should look like a ticker tape, but it's not. Should we wait a little bit? Spring. Thank you, Spring.
Gotta love the chat, right?
I know. Sarita, should we wait a little bit or should we get started?
I think we should get started. Let's get started. We have a lot to cover. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we'll let everybody come on, but I just want to personally welcome you guys. It has been a long time. I know a lot of you guys joined me really diligently for every week for about 2.5 years. And for our new friends today, thank you so much for joining us. So we're back. We're going to be doing webinars every Wednesday live again at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. And for those of you who are new or, this is a refresher, our goal on these webinars is so that you walk away from these and within 1 hour, you can implement at least one tactic that you can use immediately. That's our goal, right? What we're committed to is bringing you the best of the best subject matter experts in every subject that we're talking about and subjects that are relevant, market of the moment topics. Most of who we're going to be talking to are team leaders, but you know what? We're going to sneak in some other interviews that aren't just that. I mean, certainly there's going to be industry executives and there's always some good human interest stories in our industry. We have a very generous industry. I know that I had Dan Griebond, I think it was 2 years ago, and talked about how he did a number of triathlons and marathons with his partner who has Down syndrome. So I think that we'll have some of that peppered in, but I just wanted to welcome all of you. And most important, Sarita Dua, I want to welcome you.
Thank you, Vija. I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe it's actually here. The day has come where we get to launch this series.
I know. And our little fun fact that we haven't announced yet is that this is going to also be a podcast, and we're going to have some podcast episodes layered on top of this, but all of these will be podcasts as well, which is super cool. And that's going to be the same title. So stay with us. We'll probably launch that, I'm guessing, in June or July. So that'll be really cool.
Perfect. Well, let's get going.
Yeah, let's get this party started, Sarita.
Yeah, as much as you and I can, of course, talk all day, I'm very excited to introduce our featured guest today. We have with us Spring Bengtzen. She heads up the Utah Life Real Estate Group. And Spring and her team are crushing it. They went from 50 to 90 agents in the last 8 months. She closed something like 600 transactions last year, and she's well on her way to really blowing that out of the water. So with that, welcome, Spring. Welcome to the party.
Hi, friends. Thanks for having me. When I got the invite, I'm like, oh, 2 of my favorites. Like, you guys, behind the scenes, just so you know, when we travel or we go to dinner, I just love the conversation with these 2 ladies. So I'm like, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, so much time spent. It's been awesome, and we have a good trip coming up, Spring. So I know about your team and everything, and so but our I don't think our viewers and listeners do. So why don't we start with you, if you don't mind, kind of giving a brief team biography, right? Like, I know you're in Salt Lake City, but what did that look like at the beginning, and maybe just step us through how you got to where you are now, and then we'll break down that recruiting.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a little rundown because it's actually quite interesting. But so when I got into real estate, I actually started working for a land developer. I lived in a resort town. I was in my early 20s, and the opportunity came up that I didn't feel like I was ready for, but I took it. And I worked for that land developer selling vacation homes. So people would come in and they'd be like, oh my God, I love it here. How many of you guys have been on a vacation where you're like, I think I need to buy a house here, right? So
Unfortunately.
that was
Yeah.
my clientele, and very high end. And I did that for about 8 years. And then when the economy went down in 08, 09, my developer ended up going bankrupt. What people don't realize, like realtors usually don't realize, or just anybody, when you see a big, large community like that, they usually take years to build out, and they put so much money in the infrastructure that when the market cycles, because it usually does every 7 years, even though we haven't this recently, there ends up being a problem. So anyway, they went bankrupt, and I was at a pinnacle, like, where do I go? And I happened at that time to have gotten Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30. So everybody was like knocking on the door of, hey, come join us. And one of those was Keller Williams. Well, Keller Williams promotes teams. So when I went there, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. I'm just kind of bored. And they're like, what, do you want to start a team? And I was like, sure, that sounds fun. So I went down that path, you guys, and honestly,
That sounds fun.
right. Yeah. If I would have
Famous last words.
Yeah, it was messy. I think it was messy for a long time. And so, the one thing I was great at was making sure I got in the right rooms and the right trainings and whatnot, but I was not a leader. Like, I also had a very limiting belief of what a team should look like. And I'm a believer now, your team can be whatever capacity you want it to be. But for a really long time around, a very small Navy SEAL, everybody had to be top notch. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago, Vija, that I got the team to about 7 agents. And I had decided to open up a brokerage, which that's a whole nother, we'll talk about it another time. But I was driving on the road, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I had my children in the back seat, and I was just burned out. I'm like, you know what? Everything looked great on social media and on paper, like my life looked perfect, but I was really unfulfilled in a lot of areas. And I remember calling my coach, and I was just told him, I was like, I think I'm going to just burn this down. Like, I think if I could just go and sell houses and sell 3 or 4 houses a month by myself and make the same amount of money I was netting by the time I paid for everything on this team,
Mhm.
And he said, that's great. And you could obviously go sell a house tomorrow. But do you really picture yourself being the person who sells homes the rest of your life? Like, and it wasn't that there's anything wrong with that. It just was that, and I was like, no, I don't think I do see myself selling homes. And so he's like, well, maybe it's time to turn it into a business. And so from there, what he meant by that was actually like knowing my numbers at a very high level, and hiring leverage, like getting myself some leverage, and not having it be the spring show. And so I went and hired the right people and got some leverage, and we can dive into this, but my numbers are like, I run my business by the numbers. And I
Well,
also
you know what else it means too, Spring? I think the other thing it means is that you're making your income from the profit of the team, not your own personal production.
Yeah.
So when you say not the spring show, like when we say, turning it from a practice to a business, that's partly what I mean. What I mean by that is where your net income of your business is your income.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is what people don't realize. And now I coach teams all across the country, right? And I didn't realize this either. You guys, I made the same amount of money when it was spring selling homes to spring having a small team to spring having a larger team every year. It didn't matter what my business looked like. I made the same amount of money. And what I was realizing, it was because really, truly, like, the amount of money I was making was, I was actually, like, the team was paying the bills that I was having to have for the team. Do you know what I mean? So the CRM and the lead gen and the offices and all these things, but I was like, wait a minute, I could get rid of all of this and not have to have that expense. And so it was a gut check. And it was scary. Like, it was really scary to go on and take that risk of hiring. I ended up hiring Justin, which many of you guys have met him. and he's powerful, he's talent. And so the thought of having to pay for him, and the knowing that his family relied on that income, and all of a sudden I was guaranteeing that income, it was a really big shift in my identity of like, wow, this is now a business, and I have to make sure that we do perform and he is making enough money. So I would just say, but that's where all the growth came, was taking the risk and then treating it like a business.
Well, and just a quick comment there. I so appreciate your honesty. I can't tell you, I mean, it feels like every single person has had that conversation of, why am I doing this? I want to blow up the team. I just want to go back to me. The headaches, the growth, the recruiting, the retention, people leaving. It's a lot. Leadership is not for the faint of heart. And the fact that you actually vividly remember that moment where you're like, do I go for it? And do I make this a business? And then what does that entail? That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember even the conversations of, okay, how do I pay him? So you guys, I ended up paying him on a draw. So one of my coaches at the time said, hey, you don't want a sales manager who wants to go create a bunch of business that costs you a lot of money. So going and buying all this Zillow and realtor.com, you guys, we use all of that. So I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying, like, you can't have such a large business that there's no income coming in. And so I paid him on a draw based off of net profit. So the more money I made, he got paid. And so it allowed me to feel like I could do that, right? Like I could hire somebody, but it also made it a big win for him, because he was participating in that additional income that was coming in from us winning, right? And so he gets paid off the profit. So the team still, we've changed it over the years, but he does get still a quarterly draw of based off of net profit, not gross profit, net profit. And it's been the way that we've been able to scale, because here's what happened. So we went from 7 agents to 15. And then we went from about 15, and we'd add a few here or there. And then the conversation, I'm like, hey, Justin, like, if you want to make more, you need to make more. We need to add more agents. And once I realized, so here was the issue. And I think you would all on here probably agree with me. How many of you guys have teams that you've been like, 1 month you're having a killer month, the next month it's horrible? Or you're like, 1 month you're making month, and the next month all that production goes down the drain, or they're half of what it was. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's just this roller coaster, right? And what I realized, I was like, okay, these guys are selling homes, but then they have an off month. Well, how do we make it to when they're selling homes, that the other group of agents sells homes when they're having an off month, right? So we can like equal out the production. And when I realized, we did the math, and so we did this exercise of how many homes is the average agent worth on your team. And in my ecosystem, like, we average out brand new to experience, like we just take how many homes we close by how many agents we have. And in my world, it's 1 a month. So we base it off of, hey, if we know if we have 90 agents, we're going to sell 90 homes that month. And that's how we could create a predictable income. So when I went to Justin a few years ago, I was like, would you like to create a predictable income? Would you like to know how much money you're going to be making in the next quarter? This is how we do it. And it starts with agent count. And so our growth really has come that we've scaled up on growing our team. And I get some flack from it. Like, people, I run some Facebook ads for a coaching class I do, and I just laugh at the comments because I recognize that, like, that's not the model everybody wants to run. And I totally respect it. For us, it's the only way that we can afford to pay for everybody's salaries that we're bringing in to create this whole ecosystem that I'm really proud of. Like, we do a high level of production and we're changing lives, and it's fun, but it takes humans to do it.
So I love all of that, but I want to like go back a little bit, because I feel like there's a lesson here for a lot of people, and that is that, you're like, okay, so I found Justin and I hired him. This is what happened, but I know Justin.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be fair to describe Justin as one of the most talented team operators I've ever come across, ever. Which I would hope would carry some weight. I talk to teams every single day. So I want to go back to you. what made your mindset and your confidence and your self-esteem and all of the things that goes into that? What made you ready for Justin? What made you ready to make that decision in that moment?
Well, I had invested a lot in myself. Like I felt like I was a solid leader at the time. But I also will be very candid with you guys. I don't know that I was. I was just ready. I think it came from pain that I was like, I got to do something. So he's talent, and I'm going to hire him. And, but what ended up happening is by hiring talent, I had to level up. So I had to continue to level up in every area. And he would even say that to me. Like he wouldn't call me out. He would just be like, he would actually compliment me. He'd be like, well, you know, Spring has to be a powerful leader in order to lead me. Or like she has to do these things. And so when he would say those, it would trigger and be like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I have to create a world big enough, or I have to create these opportunities, or I have to be this leader. And so what it did was it started making me think bigger of how can I create a world big enough to keep him? Because he is talent. I mean, he's ridiculously talented. And how can I create a world big enough that he's fulfilled as well, right? Like Justin is such talent that I don't see him just running our Davis County team forever. Like that's not what he wants to do, right? And so that then creates me being like, I got to go create a world big enough that he can grow in, or he ultimately will leave, right? And I really love that relationship that we have. So it's been good. Like I personally have gone in and coached. Like I have multiple coaches. I put myself in the rooms. I also created a life and opportunities for him. Like he's now in the mix we've opened a title company. We're doing mortgage right now. We've done some coaching stuff. Like I bring him in on all of those because I want my leaders to have those opportunities as well. If I'm winning, they win. So, but I would tell you, Vija, back to that question it's been a massive growth for me, knowing that I have to continue to grow to keep him.
I know Sarita has a question, but could I just ask one follow-up and then sorry, I know,
Sure.
but it's going to bug me and burn at me if I don't ask it. So, with that said, I talk to teams every day, Spring, and I'm curious, is it more work growing a team to this size, having a Justin in your world, right? That might sound like a lot of work to people, which is why they would not love that model. Would you say you're working harder now or less now than you did 3-4 years ago?
My life is so awesome, you guys. Like I love it. So, I mean, I'm in my home office today because I've been traveling and my kids have late start. So I get the freedom to do this. If you want to be candid, I have on sweat bottoms, like
I like it.
So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been on back-to-back Zooms, but it's so different because what I was not enjoying was having to be in the office at 8 o'clock every morning. Like you have to, if you're gonna have a team and you want your agents to show up, you have to show up. If you want your agents to be making calls, you have to be making calls. And so if you're not willing to do that, then you have to be willing to hire the people who are going to do that. So that's Justin in my world. He loves it. Like he enjoys doing that. And so I will say more agents doesn't mean more work, but it is an identity shift. So I always say you've got to take off that realtor hat and put on the business owner hat. So I'm constantly looking at our numbers and our metrics. I mean, I know how many appointments are met every single day on our organization. And I know by that number, how many homes we're going to sell that month. I also know where our profit margins are, where we need to cut. I mean, it's just all of it. So it's just a different world. But yeah, I work only probably about maybe 4 hours a week on the team at this point, because I'm moving into doing other things and it's fantastic. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, it sounds like you got comfortable being uncomfortable at the beginning, and then you got very clear as to how you want your business to look like. And it's all about the numbers. Let's talk about that though. You went from 50 agents to 90 agents in the last 8 months. Go back even 8 months ago. It's about ceilings. Yeah. I want to understand, how did you picture that and how did you break through where you were?
So I'll actually back up a little bit. so every time we hit like a 30 agent benchmark, right? And we're selling 30 to 45 homes a month. That was a new standard per se, right? So then that would become like, okay, now this is just our new normal. We have to maintain it, right? And then it would be like, well, how do we maintain that number? And generally speaking, it was that we had to keep on adding more agents. But what ended up happening, well, there's two things. I'm gonna back up on this. Every single time we would plateau. And I'd be like, Justin, we're plateauing, like, what's going on? And he would say, I'm nervous to hire more people because I don't know that we can, how are we going to service them, or how are we going to onboard them, or how are we going to train them? And my answer would be like, how about we hire them and then we figure it out? And so it took some back and forth dialogue about that. But Sarita, so this is what's happened in the last year. So we crushed it 2021, right? And into 2022. And then March of last year, we all know what happened. We were doing fantastic in first quarter and in second quarter. Justin's paid off net profits. So we were making, he had a very large check, a 6-figure check for a third quarter bonus. Well, at the time I had hired a coach, and I was like, and I'd been here in 08 and 09. And the cool thing about 08 and 09 taught me was homes are always going to sell. It just depends, and somebody's going to sell them. Is it going to be you? And your product might need to change. So back when I sold luxury homes, I had to sell short sales, but homes are going to sell, right? So I was like, I know we can thrive in this market. We're going to have to shift. So what happened though, is one of my coaches and mentors, I went to him, I said, how do I pivot in this shit? Like, what's going on? And he said, okay, well, if your market's down by 40%, because it was, can you expect 40% more activities out of your agents and for them to make the same amount of money? And the answer is no. Like, me thinking that all of my agents are going to go increase activities by 40%, not going to happen. Can I go cut expenses by 40%? No. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not running a 40% profit margin. So it's like, I can cut, but not by 40%. And then he was like, well, can you increase agent productivity by 40%? Like, can you level up their skill set? And the answer was no, So he's like, then you as a business owner, not as a realtor, as a business owner, the only way you hedge on a 40% decrease is you increase agent count by 40%. That's how you're going to keep those numbers coming in, right? So your agent who did 20 homes last year might only do 12 or 13. So you've got to make up that extra 6 or 7 homes with another agent coming in. So knowing that, what ended up happening is Justin got a third quarter bonus, and we'd been having these conversations. We needed to recruit, but it was very stagnant of recruiting. Third quarter hit, no bonus, or very little, like very little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth quarter hit, no bonus. His bonus is where he makes his money, right? And I was like, I'm pretty sure your family is reliant upon this at this point. Like, you can control this. And it just was some really hard conversations. And it wasn't because it was him, it was just life. Like, how many of you guys have had to have these hard conversations?
100%.
Right now? And so we had to have some really hard conversations. Like, the only way we hedge this is if we bring on agent count. So Sarita, we went massive on recruiting, and I'll walk you guys through what we've done and we are doing. But we recruit about 10 agents a month right now. And then we take them through what we call Hello Week, which is a week with us to see how they show up and if they're the right culture.
Not Hell Week, Hello Week.
Yeah.
Hello.
It is hello.
Hello.
But yeah, so it's been really good. And I'll tell you, what ended up happening for us, which saved us, was these new agents came in to the substandard we'd set, meaning like, we didn't hire them to the culture we had, we hired them to the culture we wanted. So certain amount of conversations, working in the CRM, having to be to everything. Like, a lot of our agents have gotten very comfortable with the market we had been in. So we'd hired them to that new standard. And what was happening is they were showing up and they were selling houses. So the new agents actually saved us. in terms of, they were selling homes where our senior agents weren't. Then our senior agents came in and were like, how are all these new people selling homes? And I haven't sold a home in months. And it was like, honestly, they don't know any different, and they're not in their head about how it used to be. And so they're just doing the work. And so what's happened this year, our senior agents were like, you're right, here I go. So they're producing, and then the new agents are producing, and we're just selling houses now. And
I
it's
mean,
been,
that's contagious, right? If they could do it, I can do it, right? You
Yeah.
fall into that. Like it's,
yeah,
ignorance is kind of bliss with the new people. If that's the standard, that's what they do.
yeah.
Um,
So
I
Spring, what
love,
percentage of business in like January and February came from new agents versus the experienced agents?
I'd say it's probably 50-50, but I will tell you, third quarter of last year, I would say 80% of my business came from brand new agents.
Wow.
And it was just because again, my senior agents were just in their heads, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my market it was like fishing, but yet the fish would literally jump in your boat. I mean, the buyers would raise their hand, and there'd be a offer where they weren't used to having to nurture a relationship and provide that value,
Oh, for sure.
And so we just went and hired, and it's been great. And now it's actually happening via, and Sarita is, we actually have experienced agents coming that have sold 30, 40 houses a year that are now like knocking on our door saying, hey, I need your structure or your team. Can I come join you? Which a few years ago, that would have never happened, but they just are in the need of needing that accountability and leads and all of it. So
Are you concerned that they're going to bounce back after the market gets, goes through the cycle?
no.
No. Good.
That's why I think you have to continually building your bench. Like, we will never stop recruiting, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I can't control. Here's a lesson I learned really early in having a team. And I think most of you guys, if you're team owners listening to this, would be the same as me. I wanted it more for them than they wanted it for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I could see their potential. I was like, if you just did this, you could have this. Like, what the heck, And I just have gotten over that. Like, many of you guys are in my email list. I had agents leave last week that might have came across like I was upset. I definitely wasn't upset. It was just a reflection of like, I don't believe they leave teams, they leave leaders. So what are we doing that we needed to change? But in the same regards, I also view it as like, we all leave at some point. Like, I've left a few companies, if you all have, like, it just is part of life. And so they choose to go, hopefully we provide enough value, but if there's a better opportunity, I'm great with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, and reaffirms your focus of agent growth despite the seasons people are in, right? People are going to be in seasons, but if you focus on number of agents and providing value to those agents.
Yeah.
I was going to have her have Spring just get specific now on
Yeah.
how she goes through the recruiting. How does she view the recruiting process? What are some of the tactics for people that are watching who are like, okay, I need to do this. Where do I get started and how do I actually do it? These are the takeaways we want to leave them with.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. When I take out a piece of paper and a pen, you guys, if you have it, because I'll walk you through our blueprint and I'll walk you through quickly. And then if you have more questions or you're like, want to understand more, I'll send you to my website after and we can connect. But
I'll put it in the chat too.
so when I heard this analogy, it changed everything for me. And it was this: if you're great at getting buyers and sellers, you can be fantastic at getting agents. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing as with marketing and lead gen and whatnot. And so when I started thinking about it that way, like, I know how to generate buyers and sellers. Of course I can generate agents for this team. It's just putting some structure behind it and putting it as a system. So I think about it as two different departments in my company. We have the sales and service, and then we have the agent attraction recruiting, right? So I have a separate CRM for agent attraction for my team. I have a separate lead gen budget. I have a separate CSU dashboard that, and you guys can have whatever dashboard you want, or it could be a spreadsheet. It could be like Justin, for example, he has our VA create he needs 56 agents in his, well, he wants 90 now. So 90 agents in his specific office. So he has little heads, you know, on this thing, like the circles with the heads that have to be filled in. So that's his dashboard then. And he has all of our agents on there. Now at the bottom, he has a few left. So whatever you're going to do there. So CRM, dashboard, ad budget, separate events. We'll go over this here in a second. And then I do run Indeed ads and have a VA. So CRM, who do you put in it? This starts with knowing your avatar. So we market to agents that are selling about 1 to 12 homes a year, or 1 to 12 homes a year, or brand new. So in Utah, we can get the school lists of people going through real estate school, as well as we can use Broker Metrics or Market View Broker by Showing Time, and we'll pull those lists. So with those lists, those are the lists we end up loading in the back end of our Facebook ad campaigns. So we can target specifically who those people are. Then the question from that is, what are their needs? Like, what, if you're going to target these people, what are they looking for? And generally speaking, if you're 1 to 12 transactions, you're looking for predictability. You're looking for lead gen. You're looking for a community, like all those things. So think about your avatar and like what your messaging is. So we load them into our CRM. We also load them in the back end of Facebook. From there, I actually have a VA I think she's in the Philippines. She's been with us for about 3 years, and she is our full-time recruiter who's calling and scheduling appointments for Justin and Jace in our other office. I know you guys are here listening and being like, a VA calling me recruiting. There's no way I would listen to that conversation, or how many times you've been recruited. But here's the deal. This is what separates us. So Justin did the calls, had the conversations, and when we hired her, he was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And it's because of his thought process around it as well, right? And so I said to him, I said, hey, Justin, can I ask you a question? Have you trained her? And he's like, well, no, not really. I'm like, can I challenge you to train her? And then we can have this conversation. And so he did. He was on Zooms with her every day. He was on Slack with her every day. Like, hey, this question came up. Can you, how would you answer it? She was recording her calls. So he trained her for 90 days straight. I will tell you, she is so well-spoken, quality conversation, all of that, to where she schedules him anywhere from 2 to 4 appointments a day on his calendar. And she's been with us for 3 years. So if you'll take the time to train somebody that is a VA, they don't leave you, generally speaking, if you pay them well and treat them well. And it's been the best hire. We pay her like $4 an hour. But so all the lists go in there. She has her pipeline. If you want, I can pull up my screen and show you guys in a little bit, but she has her pipeline of who she's working with just through the CRM. So haven't contacted, a contact nurturing, scheduled a one-on-one, they're coming to team meeting, and she's scheduling him those appointments. She's scheduling them for a strategy session. So here's a key takeaway. It's not a recruiting appointment. It's a strategy session. And it's all about, where do you want to take your career? Like, where are you going to do? And so if it's a new agent, have you chose a brokerage? We'd love to do a strategy session to help you. If it's an experienced agent coming in, great. We'd love to sit down with you about your career. Tell me what has you looking, why now? Because if you're happily in your brokerage or your team, you're not having a conversation with another person. So the question is like, why now? And what has you looking? But so backing up, CRM, she's working that CRM. We have a VA. The other thing that we do is we run events every single month. And write this down. They don't have to be robust. So the events we run is anything we're already doing, we invite people to. So we do a monthly call blitz twice a month with our team. We run an ad that says, hey, we have leads. We have leads if you have time. So we give them 25 leads on-call blitz. They get to keep who they catch. So we'll give them a 25%. They just have to pay a 25% referral fee if they don't join us, right? And that's been really great because we're already doing it and it's fun energy. We
Well,
invite
and you're auditioning them, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you have to think like they're just hungry for, I mean, they're hungry for
Yeah.
leads, which if you're a team, you have plenty of them. We also will run ads based off of just training we do. So Justin's a phenomenal trainer. So we'll invite them to a training where our team already does. A lot of agents. So Justin has a coaching program called Justin Time, where he coaches teams, agents. So team owners hire him to coach their agents twice a week. So a lot of those teams will actually use his Justin Time as a recruiting tool. They'll create an Eventbrite and say, come hear from our team's coach, and they'll do a watch party. And so we do the same thing once a week. I mean, once a month, we have them come in and do a watch party. And Justin does Justin Time. We'll do panels of agents in the market coming and sharing knowledge. We'll bring in, we just did an economist that came in and went through what was happening, invited everybody. The thing that I will tell you this is, how many of you guys would go to a training at another brokerage? Be honest with yourself. Probably not. Like, I'm not going to a training at Remax or KW or wherever. And so, if you're going to do something that's, that you're inviting them, that is like somebody coming with the economist or a mastermind or whatever, make it brokerage as agnostic. So if you can do it in a venue that's not your office, do it somewhere that's not your office. Don't plaster all over it that you're with Coldwell or Remax, KW, whatever. Like, if it's just put your team name, or that you're hosting it. I mean, that's been the big thing for us, is we always make sure we don't put anything that's brokerage on it, because we just don't want people to feel uncomfortable by coming.
That's a huge aha, right? They just have to be comfortable. And I also love that you're just inviting them to what you're doing anyways. It's not like you have this whole events plan that you had to create that's different than what you're doing. You're just folding them in.
Yep. And then ads, we run 3 types of ads on social media. We do inviting them to the event. We have an agent success story once a week that's running that success story. And then we will run some that are just a call to action, which like one of them's Justin just saying, hey, if you want to make an extra $100,000 a year, like, come join us. And this is what we offer. It's well put together. But we very rarely do a call to action. It's more of like, come see what we've got. I think if people can be exposed, then it's intriguing, and even if it's a webinar like this is fantastic, so you just got to start putting things out. But that's what we did. And then Justin, so here's the key to this too. So he's meeting with 3 to 5 people a day. And I know that might sound overwhelming, but not when you have all these things bringing in the leads, just like buyers and sellers, they bring in the leads, right? And then what he does is he does it via Zoom. They're 20-minute blocks. So he just blocks out his calendar for those hour and a half each day. So it's not taking up his whole day. And if they show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. And half of them don't show up, just so you know. And Angel goes in and tries to get them rescheduled. But what it is on Zoom, if they show up and they're not the right, like, you can tell, you can get off. You can get off the Zoom very quickly, right? And then same with if they are the right fit, then we ask them if they want to come in and join us for a team meeting and see what our culture is like. And then from there, we'll take them into a strategy session. So
you know what I do, Spring, to that point? I do a quick screening call, and I literally have the questions on my notepad on my iPhone, because to me, and this is just, in real estate, you've got to do good phone. If you can't do good phone and you can't, connect with me, like my focusing question is like, would I hang up on this person, or would I probably keep talking? And I'll give them a couple options, but I usually know in 5 or 10 minutes if it's worth even a 20-minute Zoom, honestly.
Yeah.
Then I move to a Zoom.
See, and I think with us, like, Justin doesn't have the time to do that
No,
part.
it's great. It's perfect.
So that's
Yeah.
Angel, but he'll know within 5 or 10 minutes on that Zoom if he needs to get off, right? We
Yeah, for
used to do them in person, and people would walk in the office and it was like, oh
Nope.
my gosh, they haven't even showered in like 3 days. Like, how do we get them out of here? You know? And then you have them, they're in there for an hour. And so yeah, it's a 20-minute time blocked out on the calendar. And then he just has a Zoom up. So he's like, if they show up, great. If not, he just continues to work on something else. But it's been a game changer. And here's what I'll say. I know, like, I was that agent that I went and shadowed an office that had 30 agents. And I'm like, yeah, that's not me, dude. I can't even imagine that. That looks horrible. No, thank you. So I know when I say we have 90 agents, people are like, oh my gosh, it just turned out that way. And now it's such a machine, and we employ so many people and their lives and their families. And I'm like, this is the direction we're going. And now it's turned into like a business and a machine. Like, it's the model we run, but you don't have to run my race. Like, the same things I'm sharing with you is what you'd want to do if you want to get to 5 agents or 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever that is. Just pick one of them. You don't even have to go and get the VA. Maybe you're just putting the Facebook out, or maybe you are hosting a few events. Like, you just have to do something to bring in predictable agent count. Because if you're like me, when I was at KW, I was just waiting for the market center to give me a couple, or like somebody would say, oh, will you mentor my child or whatever. And so there was no predictability in the income I was going to make from the team, because there was nothing bringing in a bench of talent, you know?
Well, Spring, you mentioned when we started about how we all go way back. We've had dinners together. We've gotten to know each other. The people that are watching this need to know this about you. You are a master implementer and execution person. Like, the fact that you're laying this all out for us, all people have to do is just do it. Actually, just do it. Like, if you were on this webinar yourself a few months ago or a few years ago and someone laid it out for you, the difference between Spring and many of us is, like, literally today she'll have ads, she'll talk to people, she'll have a game plan, and she'll execute. And like you said, it doesn't matter if it's 5 or 50. It's just a matter of picking what you want to do and actually doing it and not overthinking it. So I just wanted to comment on that. And my question is 50 to 90. What's tomorrow's 90 look like? What's the number you're shooting to? Like, where do you think you're going to be and how do you get there?
Yeah, so same way that we've been doing it. So in Justin's office, I think he has 58. It changes like 2 or 3 people, but he would like to get to 100 in his office, and we're about 20 minutes north of Salt Lake City. And then I have an office that's in Salt Lake City proper that has about 25 agents. That office will probably get to about 60. And then we're going to be moving. I just bought an office in 40 minutes from our office that we'll be putting more agents in. And so,
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, we have the systems, we have the staff, we have the lead gen, we have the trainings. Like, we have a corporate trainer that we've hired to when we do Hello Week and onboarding, that they come through with one person who teaches them what we want, right? I mean, we really have it pretty dialed that we can go in it right now, Sarita. It's we're really focusing on training our leaders, like getting more people in our organization to take these opportunities that are about to come up. So we're really focusing on the agents that want to go into a different level of like leadership or whatnot. That's where our emphasis of getting them ready to go into helping build some of these new offices that will come. But yeah, that's where we're at. So
I think what jumps out at me, Spring, is that you so clearly know your value proposition, and you have a deep-seated knowledge and confidence, all of you guys do, that you can help that agent doing 1 to 12 units. You know for a fact you can get him to double that or whatever that number is, right? And I love that. And I love that you're focused on that per agent productivity, how each of them can make a living with you, because that helps retention. If agents are making a living with us, they tend to stay. Not you know, look, not always, but we have a better retention. Last question, before we wrap up, what do you think, what are you not saying? What is the biggest challenge and problem for any team leader watching this who might have 5, 7, 10, 15 agents who wants to kind of go to that next level, right? What do you wish you would have known, or what challenge and problem might they have in front of them?
A lot. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, like, no, it's not even that. I think that the biggest thing is you've got to pick some standards that you're willing to live with. And when I say standards, I don't mean like, I think everybody talks about having standards, but yet they don't hold them. So I used to live in an idealistic world of saying, oh, we have 100 conversations. Well, that's a crappy answer because it's just not true. Like, some of my top agents are crushing it. I had one girl sell 10 homes last month. She's not making 100 conversations a month. I know it, and I'm not gonna like part ways with her because of that, right? So our standard in our ecosystem is that they have to do 1 appointment a week, and that was just something we lived with. So coming up with a standard, and then really knowing who you are, because there's going to always be that other team or somebody doing it this way or somebody doing it that way, and you have to pick who you want to be and be okay with it. So I'll give you an example. And not go to the next shiny object, like not just buy. Like, realtors are the worst at like, oh, this new lead gen came out, I'm going to buy it. And it's like, you don't need to go do all the shiny stuff. Like, you got to pick who you want to be, know your standards, and then choose your lane and freaking go for it. And my example was going to be, so I do have 90 agents. I had 4, one of them came back. So 3 senior agents left last week. No big deal, you guys. I put it on social media. It was no big deal, but it made me reflect as a leader, right? But the reason I bring this up is it made my leaders be like, well, should we look at what the other team's doing? Maybe we need to change our split structure. Maybe we need to do this. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, let them run their race. We'll run ours. Like, I'm not going to change what I'm doing because of somebody else, And so I would just say you got to pick who you're going to be. And then this actually came from Ben via this. I don't think I ever told you this, but I got on with you and Ben like a year ago. And Ben said, well, Spring, what do you want? Like, and I said, well, I think I want to open office here or there. And he said, okay, great. But I think the first step is how much money do you want to make? And then we can back into that. And I think we as team owners start thinking about bigger, better, how many of this or how many agents. And it's like, why don't we talk about how much money you want to make and then how do you want to get there? And so that, I think, is the key to it as well, is really like, let's not talk about agent count. Let's talk about profitability. And also running your race that makes you happy. With that being said, I would tell, there's some questions on here about splits. I'm totally fine to talk about.
Okay.
Splits. So we do run a 50-50 model. Again, I don't like, you guys do what you want to do. I don't like, everybody does something totally different. The reason we run a 50-50 model is it's really hard for us to be profitable without it. Like, if we're at a 50-50 model and our expenses are 30%,
there's your 20% margin right there.
Only a 20% margin there, right? And that's if we're running lean at 30%, right?
And that's if you're at 50. So for all of you teams that have blended averages at 55, 60%, and I see the P&Ls and you're running at 30%, that's 90, 95%, you're barely breaking even. So, I mean, it's a big topic.
And what's happening right now too is with all the lead aggregates like Zillow Flex and Opcity and everything, they take 35% off the top. So it's even killing profitability even more. So we run a 50-50 model. I'm not going to sway from it. I don't run anything different for self-gen. This actually came from Brian Gubernick back in the day. He was at Place. He actually asked me, because I was like, that question, Jason, like, well, should I do something different for self-gen? And Brian asked me, he said, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'm in front of like a whole room of people. So I'm like, okay, that's great.
Well,
And
you're going to.
yeah. And he goes, Spring, what expense goes away when it's self-generated? I'm like, well, I guess the cost of the lead. And he goes, do you still have your rent? Do you still have your admin cost? Do you still have your all the other expenses besides that cost lead? Like, what can I ask you how much a lead costs? And at that time, it was like anywhere from $16 to $300, right? 400
Mhm.
$400. And he's like, so you're gonna go give them 20% more for that self-gen. And it was an aha to me of like, yeah, we probably that doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. I will tell you guys though, I do run if they sell 24 homes in 1 year, so that calendar year, we will bump them up to a 60/40 on their SOI, and then everything else stays a 50/50. If they do 24 self-generated, like they
Mhm.
brought in all the business self-generated, we will bump them to 70/30 on their SOI, and then the team stuff's at 50/50. Of my 90 agents, I only have one that's on that 70/30. So, I mean, that is an option in our world, but that's like the most we can
Yeah.
do. Like, there's no profit margins if we do it in different.
No, there's just not. So someone asked a question about physical space and growth. How do you handle that? How do you recommend handling that?
So you mean like office space
Uh-huh.
or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes. Oh my gosh. So we do have offices, and if I gave everybody their own desk, we would not have any space and we would not make any money. So the office that we're in is decent sized. We do offer shadow days. If anybody wants to come hang out for the day, you can. But nobody has an assigned seating. So we're a collab office space. So we've got plenty of space in the office, but they don't get to like pick and sit, you know. And I learned this lesson the hard way because we used to do that. And when I was at Keller Williams, everybody had their own desk.
Mm-hmm.
And then half the time somebody wasn't there, or like or they're there for an hour or whatnot. And I'm like, this is absurd to give everybody space when they're not showing up all the time. So everything we have is just drop in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let me say, when I say drop in, we require them to be there. So you come to my office and it's full of people. They just don't have their like, hey, my desk and all my stuff and whatnot. Like it's a drop in.
Chastity's asking a lot about split. Chastity, my like answer, like my one sentence answer would be agents are willing to pay a split for the perceived value that they receive.
Yep.
That would be my answer to all of that. Someone is asking if you recruit from other sources in addition to Indeed. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google, other.
Oh, all of it. Yeah, we run ads on Facebook and Instagram, and then I don't do TikTok. But we have Indeed, we have the VA who's calling the school list, and then we run the event ads. That's pretty much our main sources. If I was great on social media and the videos and all that kind of stuff, maybe, but it's not really where my emphasis is. So we just have what we can systemize. But if you're a really strong presence on those, then heck yeah, go for it.
Sarita, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all. I want to know, I guess, from Spring, what keeps you up at night? What stresses you out? You're on this huge growth trajectory. You've got a lot of lessons you're folding in and continuing to tweak and just keep getting better. But what's on your stress list of things that just kind of keep you brewing?
You know what, Sarita? I sleep pretty good at night. Isn't that horrible to say?
I love it.
I'm
Well,
not
you're
saying,
wearing your sweat bottoms. I mean, there's something that's working here.
yeah, you know what? Yeah, I was running slow today, but I don't get me wrong, I have stresses. So I mean, like that I have stresses. Just on the team is one of those that yeah, there is stresses of like, okay, is our customer service still phenomenal? How do I make sure everybody's providing the level? Like, how is our transaction management whole? I mean, there's things like that, you know what I mean? Like those scalability, but they're nothing big. Um, I think the thing is just making sure that everybody is providing the level of service that I want for the consumer is probably my biggest thing on the team. I don't want to run an organization that is just transactional, you know, and they don't know what they're doing. I will tell you this, so I'm very proud of them. I do, the office is like 3 minutes away from my house, and I'll walk in and I'll be in my office, like listening to calls and stuff. And I'm impressed. Like they're doing a phenomenal job and whatnot. And so I don't expect everybody to go be a top producer, but I do expect them to know what they're doing and provide great value.
Yeah.
I have stresses, Sarita, about 1,000 other things like events and coaching stuff or whatnot. But the team itself, I think I have a lot of leverage of great leaders that I respect that are doing a great job with it. So,
Well, your focus, as you focus on quantity, of course, what you just said, that quality of what you stand for, right? Just making sure that those that service standard is being met.
yeah.
I was going to ask one more thing, which is just,
I think we need to.
Yeah, we need to wrap, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
I think
Spring has given us so much that we
but she
might
was
have to
so
have
good.
her as
Well,
an
we're trying to
encore.
get these done in 45 minutes, but
Yes.
it's obviously with spring, we're going to
Yeah.
take our time.
If
But
you guys need to wrap, here's the thing. If any of you guys are wanting to do agent attraction, I run a 6-week course right now. I'm already running it, so it's done or it's in the process, but I'll do another one. So if you go to springbee.com/go, you can just get on the wait list. And when I announce another one, you'll get an email saying it's available and you're welcome to participate. We walk you through what I told you, but we actually like help you implement it. And there's a lot of nuts and bolts and pieces to it. So if you're interested, I'll run one in about another month.
I love that. I love that so
I love
much.
that.
Thank you so much. It's interesting because we didn't plan it this way, but next week we have Michael Perna on. And Michael went from 130, well, currently he has 130 agents, and he was like a 20, 30, 40 agent team as well. Very, very similar. And what we're going to talk about is how we did that, but we're going to move into that per agent productivity conversation and how you get that many agents. I asked him how many agents he's going to have by the end of the year, and the plan is a 200 agent team by the end of the year. And we got into a ton of what happens next. How do you launch them? What does that look like? How do you keep them producing? So we're gonna get his take. A lot of similarities and some differences. They lean a lot on a group interview, but similar to you, Spring, they have everybody come on their they have a weekly power up that they do as a team. So it's similar and different, right? And so I would say the theme of Michael Perna's is how to systemize and consistently implement that. And they're about 10 agents, so 10 to 15 gross agents a month for whatever their net is. We'll find that out. So
Awesome. Okay.
Perfect. And then I just want to remind everyone that whether you have 50, 90, or 200 agents, wherever you start, these tactics can be applied to anybody.
Yeah.
So you can be just thinking about starting your team or just taking it to the first level. These same tactics apply. So hopefully there's something for everyone here.
I'm so glad you said that.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being our first guest.
You were the best.
I'm gonna be on all of these as as somebody who's watching, because I know the value that's coming. So
good. Thank you.
Awesome.
And thank you all of our guests to be on our very first one. We appreciate you. Spread the word for us. Send the link. Register for next week's. Keep going. So
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
all right. Bye, everyone.